demonstration video, we are going to go to San Diego, California, and we're going to be using chalk pastels to finish our drawing of the San Diego Mission. So this is a really cool landmark in California. It's a really beautiful building. It's had a lot of different purposes over the years, but now it is currently a museum. And so we're going to use chalk pastel today. This is a fun drawing. It's really, really pretty. It's going to look really great in a frame. So take your time. Careful and be ready to keep your hands clean and do the things you need to do to make sure this chalk doesn't get all over your house or all over your clothes. So guys, if you want a magnet, please like this video. Tell me you liked it in the class. If you're not in my class, email me, tell me you watched it and liked it. But please make sure you're subscribing to this channel and also telling your friends about it, because everything you do helps me and I can do more and more to help you guys learn about art. So if you've already got a magnet though, guys, just let me know in class by holding it up and saying I have a magnet, and I'll take your picture. I'll put you in my magnet club, guys. It's just a fun way to sort of celebrate something cool. All right. So guys, today we're going to be using chalk pastel, like I said, and this chalk pastel can be very, very messy, and I just want you to know that it's important to do things, whatever you can do, to make sure it doesn't get too messy, okay? So this is the kind I like to use, and chalk pastel is made with powder and not oil, and that's why it's very dusty. And so in order to control the mess, we have a couple of things we can do. Number one, for yourself, you got to have some type of wipe, okay? Now these are just regular old disinfecting wipes. It can be a wet paper towel, it can be a lot of things, but what you need is you definitely need to have something nearby and handy so that you can wipe your fingers off. So I've got my wipe ready to go here. See that? But it's a wet wipe, right? So I'm going to put it on a piece of like an old lid here, and I'm going to set it aside. That way when I'm ready for it, it's going to be ready for me. Also, we're going to be using some cotton balls and some Q-tips and some paper plates today. These are things that are going to help us control the chalk dust and also not make a huge mess. You want to make sure you're wearing clothes that are not your favorite, not brand new. You should not be doing, chalk pastel artwork wearing a white outfit, for example. Just wear some old clothes and be ready to wash your hands and do whatever it is you need to do so this does not become a problem. But if you do these things, it really isn't a problem. So I hope you're ready to try that. Also, guys, when we're done, we're going to spray this with a good old Aussie Headstrong Volume Hairspray, Maximum Hold. This stuff doesn't smell horrible and it works. What it does is it keeps the chalk dust stuck to the paper. So there's several things we can do, like I said, to make sure this does not become a giant mess that makes your parents crazy. But at the same time, it's going to look really, really beautiful. So alrighty, all that said, let's go ahead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my little doodads aside, and I'm going to work on creating a color palette today. And so a color palette is something that you just have colors you're going to work with. So the San Diego Mission is a white building, okay? So this is a type of agave that's like a succulent. It's a huge plant. It's like a greenish blue. Of course, this is a cactus. We've got the flower pots. We've got the door. We've got the steps. We've got the sky, the bell tower. We have a lot of things that need color, okay? But the building itself is white. That doesn't mean we're going to leave it pure white, okay? Because white is not exactly finished looking. There's still light and shadow. So we need that color palette. So like I said, I know that my plant, that agave plant, is some shades of green. So I'm actually going to do a couple color palettes here. I'm going to have one that's on the green side, and that is just one color green, my friends. I don't want you just to say, okay, well, I did it, it's green. Well, we're trying to make some art here, guys, not just, fill something in. So I'm going to give myself a few things. This is my green palette, okay? So remember I said it's kind of a bluish green. So I'm going to add a little bit more over here. That already looks cool, doesn't it? See how it gets on your fingers? I'm going to set this aside. This is my green palette now. I'll come back to that in a few minutes. I want to have a palette for the steps. Now this is a sort of a Spanish style architecture. And these steps are kind of a terracotta color. Terracotta is a type of clay. And so terracotta is kind of orangish, it's kind of brownish, It's kind of reddish. So we're going to create some colors here. And there's actually a really nice terracotta color here that's already made. So I'm going to use a little of that too. But I want you to notice, look how beautiful, guys. They look side by side. These are our color palettes. That one's ready. Now I want to make sure I have one for my sky. And because the sky is not very big in this picture, but I want it to be like really, really pretty. So I'm going to create that blue there. A little bit of purple. This is actually a dark blue. See, that's why it's a good thing to test colors on these plates. This is my purple. So I'm going to add purple up here. And I want to also add a little bit of this light blue. Again, you see how I'm creating sort of like a palette. If you were a painter, you'd be putting your paint on your palette. Here we're putting chalk. So let's review. Look at these gorgeous color palettes. I've got my greens, I've got my terracottas, I've got my blues, right? I've got a lot of really good colors. But I also want to talk about shading. So the shading can be done with these blues. That's true. I want to make sure this plate comes off. There we go. But we're going to keep the shading in this a little on the simple side. I want to show you what I mean. So I'm going to put a little bit of gray here. And then I'm going to just take this sort of dusty, like sort of purplish periwinkle blue. And I am going to use those later to create the shadows on my building. So now I'm up to 4 color palettes. And the final thing is going to be the gold and things like that on, you know, the bells. And I don't need a color palette for that. So I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to bring this back to the center and I'm going to show you my fingers. See that? They're dirty. That's why I've got my little wipe here. I'm going to wipe my fingers off, not making a mess, putting my wipe back on my little plastic tray, and then I'm ready. So I want to start with my green palette. And by the way, once you've got your palettes, you don't need to have this sitting around. If it's safer for you to put the lid back on so it doesn't spill or get messed up, that's always a good choice. All right, this is actually kind of a large area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cotton ball first. And I'm going to stir these colors up a little bit. And I really want it to be like, agave is like a very like light greenish bluish color. So I'm going to go ahead and see what that looks like. That looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to bring this color up and I'm going to make it a little bit of a different color. It doesn't have to be exactly the same. So you see how I'm taking some of this lighter green now and I'm going to just bring it up into the tips here. This is where if you want to use your finger or one of those handy dandy Q-tips. Oh my gosh, I almost called it a pipe cleaner. That would be silly. So I have done the first coat here. And if you have dust on your paper, what you don't want to do is rub it. If you rub it, you are going to smudge it really bad. So you can just blow it off into the garbage can if possible. I'm going to take a Q-tip now, and you see how I'm sort of mixing now my darker blues and my darker greens here. This is going to be a little really cool shadow color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of rub this in along the bottom. Not going to put this everywhere. This is our shadow. And it's going to look awesome. Now guys, I'm going to do the rest of this in time lapse. You saw my color palettes. You see that I'm using these tools. I'm going to be using both kinds of tools to accomplish this today. Tools as in Q-tips and cotton balls. Maybe my fingers. But this is something where you have to just kind of take your time and do your best not to rub it. If you accidentally rub it, it's not the end of the world. Just try not to. That looks cool already. I love it. All right, guys. We're going to go into time lapse now, and then I'll come back to do the conclusion. so as you can see, I did a lot of cool things here, and I've created, you know, my greens. I've got some purple and oranges in there. There's a few little colors I need to add that I don't have yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put all this stuff aside because I don't need those right now. And I'm going to get out a new mixing tray. And I want to have some pink for my flowers. There's little tiny flowers on the end of this cactus. So I'm going to see if I have pink in the first place. I think that's pink. Yep. So I'm going to add a little pink there. And I'm going to add a little white to my pink just to make it a softer pink. There we go. That looks like a cactus flower. Also, I've got the bells up here. I want to make sure they are real bright and stand out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to add a little bit of orange as well just to give myself... You notice these are a lot smaller in quantity. And that's because we don't need tons and tons and tons of chalk for this now. So I'm going to show you how to finish this, and I need to grab a Q-tip. I'll be right back. All right, so I got some Q-tips here. So I'm going to take this beautiful pinkish color, which is really a great cactus flower color, and I'm just going to get it on the end of my Q-tip, and I'm just going to do my best to just kind of get it right into those little flowers. The nice thing about chalk is you don't have to be super duper precise, you know. I think sometimes people think they have to be super precise, but chalk is beautiful in its own sort of dusty way, and you don't have to make it super duper careful and precise in order to have a good result. It just naturally looks very soft and very pretty. All right, so final touches. I wanted to say there's lots of shading going on here, and I kind of went over the edge a little bit there, and even though chalk is fun to mess around with and play with, I want you to know that if you do that before you spray it with hairspray, you can kind of lift a little bit of chalk from the edge. For example, I'm going to show you what I mean. I'm taking this, it's a white eraser, and I'm just lifting the edge of the chalk there just a little bit, because I really want to have that really dramatic sort of white-washed, sun-bleached kind of look to the edge of this. So I want to just create a little bit more crispness here on the edge. And that's definitely not something we do every day in my class, but that is something that if you want to do, if you need to do, you can use it. And I don't think a regular eraser will work, but if you have sort of a white eraser or something like that, it will help. All right, that looks pretty cool. So I think we're done. Of course, now I'm seeing other things I want to fiddle with a little bit here, but that's the way it goes. You can also use your fingers. If you feel like you want to soften some edges at all, you can use your fingers. Fingers are great tools. Just wanted to show you how that looks. I think it looks pretty great. I'm using my finger here to kind of smudge and smooth this out a little bit. I see a few spots that I feel like need my help a little. So I'm using my finger to do that, and I think that looks really good. Of course, I'm getting it on my fingers, but that's okay, right? Because we're artists and we don't mind. So I think that must have been a little drop of water that accidentally fell on there, but that's also not the end of the world. I'm going to do the final touches because I have this yellow right here, this bright yellow. I'm going to add a little bit of that bright yellow right on the edges of my agave here and make it look a little teensy-weensy bit brighter. These are all things that just kind of, each person has to do their own thing, and I just want you to see how much fun it is, and you can really just enjoy yourself, guys. All right, friends. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. This is really fun and it looks really good. Remember, keep your hands clean after you're done. Keep your surface clean where you worked by using that wipe. It doesn't have to be messy. But what I do want you to do is give it a good spray with hairspray, whether your parents help you. See how I'm not getting too close to it? If you get too close to it, you're going to make a big puddle in one spot, and that is going to make it very messy and not dry very well. All right, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.